Hello everyone, you're doing fine. Today
Yeah,
Meno, who is really working a lot with Revit and IFC and so on, he has some ideas to share with us. Some of the most common mistakes things that he sees that could be avoided if you want. And of course, we are also looking forward to hear from your side, okay? Which are the most common challenges you are facing when you are exporting from Revit to IFC or when you work with IFC in general, okay? So, with that in mind, you can already start writing your comments, and later, when we get a moment, we can go over them, okay? So that's the first thing. The second one, of course, click that share button so all your friends on LinkedIn can see it. This is going to be a great resource, and it would be a shame to not share it with your friends. And I'm sure you have many on LinkedIn. Yeah, sorry for the long introduction. Hey, Beno, thank you for joining us. Thank you for accepting to share with us these tips.
yeah. Hi. Uh, Always happy to share my knowledge and, uh, of course, also to help to learn from everybody what they're struggling with. Because, yeah, I'm working with IFC and Revit for years already. So and of course, I made a nice course about it as well. So I'm really deep into the matter. So for me, it's always, oh yeah, you do it like that, and it's seemingly very simple, but then if you hear from other people, it's like, a lot of stuff can go wrong. And um, yeah, there are probably some open doors that I will kick in. But
Okay, that sounds
yeah,
very good, Meno. A quick
yeah,
question for you. Do you have by any chance the live stream in your browser? Because I think I can hear the audio. If you have it, either close it, either mute the tab. Because I think I was hearing the
I'm not sure. Let's see.
see in your browser if you have it, and if you have it, either close it or mute the tab. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Just close my browser and is that better?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're good to
yeah, of
go. You can share your screen and let's go if you want to share your screen. Or I guess it would,
course. Yeah.
yeah. Right.
Uh, yeah, let's go. So it's not a really big PowerPoint, but I just always like to start with uh, some preset things that I came up with. So Revit to IFC. Well, what did I did wrong now? Well, of course it's not. Yeah. Well, Revit. Let's try to avoid some errors. So errors in IFC are of course user defined. So either you forgot something or didn't know how to, or maybe you didn't even know you were supposed to. Well, by being here, I know you already want to learn, right? We care a lot. But I guess you just can't find the time, right, to learn or to uh, prevent your mistakes. Well, I think let's kick at some open doors because basically it's all about communication. So first, know what you are asked to deliver. So read the BIM execution plan because how else are you going to comply to the requirements? I mean, you can export a lot or nothing at all or just a little. Um, and to you, it might be uh, logical, but maybe somebody else expects something else. So it might not even be an error, or maybe just something you did not export while it was still in Revit. Um, and because that, I mean, the execution plan was a communal effort. It's the first BIM communication with your team before you start a project. So it's quite important. And if you're a BIM manager, of course, you know how to create them, how to read them. But if you are a modeler, I think you should also go and join your project leader or your manager while you are creating the execution plan, because then you uh, get to know the people on the other side of the models. You get to know the structural engineer, you get to know the contractor, you get to know the client. Um, so basically, if they want something, you can react to that. and also you understand a bit more about what they want. Because sometimes they really have special needs. In this case, this is quite a well, not a really big building. It's a football club, and this is built with prefabricated elements. So of course we have some prefabricated elements, some elements that we will build on site. Now we have property. It's called assembly place, and you never use it if you are just doing the work that I do. But for this case, it was really interesting to actually to export. Yeah, so sometimes you have special needs, and in this case, I thought this was important to add to the model. And I didn't actually say to people it's in the models, but then when I shared the model, the guy from the factory, he said, how can I see what elements are prefabricated in the factory and what will you be doing on site? And I said, well, if you look at this property set, you will find it. So yeah, he was, I hope, happy with that. And of course, this is also something more is more, of course. What you see here is a lot of, I think it's 19 properties, and these are all contractor wishes. They want a lot of information, and they usually want it in one easy to access menu tab. And I don't really like it, but well, they're the client, so we comply to that. And what you'll see that even we need to export some crazy stuff that is already in the.
You know, Menno,
yeah.
I want to say something. You just gave me the occasion to jump in and say something quite cool. I think another session we can have in the future would be to actually talk about how should we actually put this information in the proper way in an IFC model, like without putting and dumping everything in a pset. Like, because I'm sure we can use a lot of the attributes, the correct classification, the materials, and all that good stuff, right? And just have in the property sets, in the custom property sets, only the things that are not supported by default by the schema, right?
Yeah.
I think this could be a very cool topic to discuss about.
It sure is, and we do have a lot of things for that, like the BSDD, Building Smart Data Dictionary. We have add-ins for Revit as well to put it in the model. Because what you see here, this is building story. This is the entity, predefined type. This is IFC name. This is a classification code. This is load bearing, is external. This is fire rating, thermal transmittance. This is what is it called? The fire class. It's not the fire class, but something else. The material, and then this one, color, and these are 2 zones. This is manufacturer. So basically, from the 19,
most of them actually are supported by default. Yeah, most of them, like very few of them, I don't come immediately with a place, but I'm sure there might be also, right?
6. There are 6 properties here that are not in IFC.
Wow. That's very little from that, like a third, let's say.
Yeah, that's true. And that's but exporting them, well, that's of course, let me just open one of my Revits here.
Yeah, I don't want to hijack this and go into that discussion now.
We can go from anywhere, because one of the things, I use a lot of shortcuts. So if you see something appear, this is the export to IFC. So we have one of the other common mistakes, I think, when exporting, we go to the tab called property sets. There is these property sets. So this is one of the text file. This text file exports to those predefined or user-defined property sets. And we have the export mapping. And these two sometimes get mixed up. Sometimes I see that somebody actually puts a mapping table in the property set, and then it doesn't work, which is, well, obvious. But yeah, that's something like mapping and a user-defined property set. Those are quite a few different things, and I can show you how that works somewhere in this big PowerPoint. Must be the, is it? Yeah, it is somewhere over here. Yeah, so basically this is the one of those text files where you can add all the properties you want in a text file, but there is also the, not here, the mapping table, which is something else. Like the first one, you see the property set is where you can just have a reference parameter in your language that says something, and you can say this something has to export to something else in a specific property set, but it's always a user-defined property set. Or actually, not really. You could also go export to the common property sets, but this is a mapping table, and this mapping table is, I don't really use it that much. This is the mapping table that I use, actually. No, well, basically it has like a few of these, and not that many. My mapping table is like 4 or 5 parameters. And what you see here is that you can actually map something. So this is a parameter, it's called acoustic rating ceiling, which is a specific parameter that I created. And it's supposed to export to the acoustic rating property in the preset covering common. So here you can actually map your own parameters to the common property sets. So that's a mapping, and the other one is actually an export table, and it sounds similar. You can think they're the same, but they're actually totally different. So that's something that get mixed up as well. What you also saw here, if you paid attention, is this button here. Export Revit property sets. And this is my last export before I went in here. And this one, it should always be off, because in this case, in the project that I was exporting, let's see, where is it? Is it this one? Probably not. No. Yeah. So this project, it's the football club. It's not that big, and the export without the Revit property sets was 19 megabytes, and with property sets was 36 megabytes. So it's almost doubled in size. And of course, big projects won't double in size, but yeah, it's a significant amount of extra data, extra export time that you would get. And I think that this one,
unnecessary data that you don't
need. Because look at this. This is something, this is a covering. What I have here is not just the pset covering common, where we have the is external and the surface spread of flame, the one that I couldn't come up with, base quantities like the net area and the width, but also other, which is something for Revit. You have the category, family name. This is something nobody cares about. Nobody should know. It's not important. Identity data, what's in there? Look at this. This is where you can see the classification code. So basically, if I export to IFC, I, in Revit, say that this piece of wall, it should be exported to a classification code that says this is the classification code. So it will export to this one, NLS survey table 1, with the code and the description of that code. And this is how you do it in Revit. So you can export to the correct classification code. And I think I have one here as well. Well, this is another example that's for later. But what you see here in your identity data, you actually see it again, but then exactly how it is in Revit. So that's, well, it's totally useless. Also, the manufacturer is here but the manufacturer should be in the manufacturer type information, where I also had this assembly place, this really nice property that I not really need, but for this project, I do need it. Analytical properties, I don't need that. Constraints, well, these are just one small covering, but if I look at a window, let's see what we have here. Probably the dimensions, well, look at this.
Wow, yeah.
If you get this model, I mean, you would send this model back and you can say, well, I have a lot of information, but I don't really know what is true. And I do need all these parameters for my to create my window, to make the height and the width and all the different I don't know, it's a wooden window frame, so it has I don't know how you call it when they come together with the indentations. Spawning. I have no idea how it's in English, but basically, in order to create the geometry, I need a lot of information, so I can use this family to create multiple windows. But you don't need it. You only need height and width, and maybe the manufacturer. So there is a lot of redundant information. So that's something that you should always turn off, which is the Revit export property sets. It shouldn't even be here, man. Yeah. So while we're at this specific part of the export settings, what you saw, that what I did was actually exporting to a classification with the specific parameter called classification code, and you can have as many as you want. But most people will probably use the assembly code. And the assembly code is well, you probably know what it is, right? So basically, it's also a text file where you can choose what it should be. And in this case, let's go to 41. So here you can choose what it is, and you get the description and the code as well. And
how does this show up in IFC menu? Because I don't know.
Yeah, similar. So what I will do is I will do this, isolate elements, and I will export just to give you an idea. Let's see, export in view only. So we should be quite fast.
Hey guys on LinkedIn, why you're so quiet? I'm sure you encounter challenges. Come on, write what you see around. What are the common mistakes that you see? Not that you do, but maybe other people that you have to deal and fix maybe after them or something like that. Don't be so shy.
Yeah, let's wait a bit.
You exported only that wall?
Yeah, so that's that. So let's open one of these that I don't really. Oh, I don't need this one. Let's go to.
Istvan, I don't mean here in Zoom. I mean on LinkedIn. People on LinkedIn, don't leave any comment. Come on, guys. Come on. There.
Yeah, so, here it is. This is the wall. And you can see that this is the correct way or the way that I always export it. And I do that specifically because it's in Revit, in the elements itself. And this is a separate file. You can see it now, it's called uniformat
Yeah.
instead of the.
And that's a classification system. And what about the one above, the classification above? You had also the other one.
Yeah, that's this one.
CNS.
But let's also open it in Sotheby's, because here
Okay.
it's the same. Here you can see the classifications in a
Yeah.
nice way. And of course, I'm going to say, why don't you use...
Close. You have to close first. Yeah.
I don't want to say that. Why don't I use Blender, man? I don't know, because I'm not comfortable enough with finding that stuff.
It's okay.
Yeah, let's go. No, always go faster. Yeah, and you can see that here this is 4111, and this is the uniformat, and here you can see the reference and the name, but in BIM Club I didn't see it. So that's also too bad. But this one is fixed in my element, and what you see when I export in the exporter here, it actually should have exported. Oh no, it doesn't export because this one already exists. So it would, so I would do this one test. Then here you can export the assembly code to a specific classification code system like this. And the funny thing is, you can also export keynotes with that if you want. So you could have your classification and your keynotes. But I don't use keynotes, so that's not something that I need. But it's possible. Okay, let's go again. This is class. Yeah, so here you can see that you can also map your assembly code to a correct classification system if you want. Well, you need it because uniformat is not used in our country, so uniformat is never correct. But the common practice is that people who receive these models, the BIM coordinators and the contractors, they create monster classifications so they can just grab everything and then they fix it with one big classification or one rule set or whatever. So they will have the correct information because usually the code like 4111, that one is usually correct. And sometimes the description is in capitals or not in capitals. So basically it's a big mess, or there's a lot of differences. While it's actually quite easy to get it right. And that's why I like it to add it in the element itself. So it's fixed in the element. And also because it's a parameter, you can also set the parameter to instance in case you can actually nest it or use it in nested elements. So you can associate the parameter so it will inherit the classification code from the host. So there's a lot of advantages of doing that.
No, I have one question. Let's quickly reply to this. Actually, we have two, but let's answer to at least one. So Boris is asking, combine the requirements of the client in a unique P set is very common and useful. What is the right way to simplify the quality check of the IFC model? Your answer first and I'll go after.
The quality check. Well, that's
but I think the idea, like why is not good to combine everything in a P set, in a custom P set, right? Because that's the question.
It's not, well, it's the client and contractor, they require it, they want it. So then it's correct because it's part of the execution plan. So What's wrong with it is that if you ask somebody to put everything in one box, it's a big box of data and not information. The thing is, if you would ask me to put everything in the custom property set, I should actually remove it from the common property set because they don't look in that common property sets, which probably will make the model even lighter.
Yeah.
But then what you get is that I work in just a few tools. I use Revit to create. We also use SketchUp. I use Club. Sometimes I use Solibri to check. I use Blender for my IDS. So that's already 6 different pieces of software that I use. And that's why the IFC schema is, or any international standard is used, because it doesn't matter in what tool you read something, you read an IFC, every tool will read it. Every tool will understand if it's a wall, the area is the front side. If it's a floor, a slab, the area is the top side. And if you just have some geometry with some data, you cannot trust it. Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, that if you just put it in some custom property set, nobody will ever learn these standards.
Yeah.
But
okay.
That's, yeah.
Makes sense. Now let me go on a rant about this because I really have a hot take about this. So the thing, I think the main reason why we get everything stuffed in a pset, in a custom pset, is because first and foremost, these people who are creating these property sets don't have any clue about how IFC schema works. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for being so blunt, but that's the truth. Because it doesn't make any sense to put something called a property, called material, in a custom property set when you have something, an entity called material in the IFC schema itself. So in order to leverage full support of IFC schema, you have to use its elements, not to create, like when we do this, when we put everything into this pset, we decide to create a custom, like another IFC schema inside IFC schema, our own IFC schema, right? So, and that's fine, but to use that, because the idea is for IFC schema to be flexible. But be flexible after you are using already the basic things that it provides, okay? So we have attributes, we have quantity sets, we have classification system, we have materials, all these things. We have IFC classes themselves. Like the first thing we have types. We have to use these things first, and only after that, what remains, and we cannot fit anywhere else, we can put together. I understand also the justification. Another justification for that is that many people are saying, hey, but I don't want to confuse people. These people don't understand the IFC schema and so on. But unfortunately, if you do that, you are handicapping the future use of your models. Because if you put these things in the right place, then you can do a lot of automations, and also it's a universal standard. If you are going to share it with international teams or anyone else, they will know where to find this information. They will not go and search in a custom property set for material, because they know we already have something called material, IFC material. They will not go and look in a custom property set for quantities, because we know Q sets, we have Q sets, right? So this is the whole idea here. And when we looked at Menno, we saw that he had like 6 properties which were not be able to fit anywhere else. But everything else, it's already defined by IFC schema, right? So that's the whole purpose. We also, it's like we defeat the purpose of IFC schema when we do that, because we try to standardize again inside IFC schema, which is already a standard, right? And we don't use the standard that is how it's defined. Sorry for getting carried away. I'm really passionate about this, and I really think this is the issue. This is my open and honest opinion about it. Again, like, if we use IFC schema to speak the same language, and then we try to recreate our own bubble inside the IFC schema, it doesn't make any sense, right? Okay, I'm done. One more question, Menno, because we are still here. Let's answer this question. Engelbertus, it's asking us, using latest Revit and IFC export version delivered when installing Revit, some things don't get exported correct. some parameters just don't get exported, and also some shafts don't get exported. Both are said to be bugs, but they are in there for a long time. Some geometry stuff like the shafts do not get exported using IFC4, but a lot of companies specify IFC to X3. I have a full rant on this as well, but I'll let you, Mano, answer. I can paste the question because it was a bit long and maybe it was not so easy to, it's not so easy just to listen to it. So maybe it's easy also to read it. Just look in the chat, okay? So again, sorry, Boris, like my reply was not for you, okay? It was like in general, so I did not reply to you, like it was not a personal take for you, okay? I'm saying in general, I did that. The last thing here was to insult you. That was not my idea. Like it was a reply for in general, like this. That's why we get these custom property sets, because the consultants don't understand how IFC schema works, and it's very easy for them to define custom property sets where they put everything it comes to their mind that they might need. Okay, so don't take this personally. It was not about you. It was in general.
No. Well, hi, Engelbertus. Nice to you to join. I actually worked with Engelbertus, if it's the guy that I think he is, on projects. Let's see. The latest Revit, yeah, I'm still using 2024, but probably the problems remain the same. Some shafts don't get exported. I think that shafts are just openings. So if they are exported, I'm not quite sure.
No, might be because maybe because he is using the default exporter from Revit. That could be an issue. And maybe if you install the GitHub export IFC, like a Revit to IFC export would fix that.
Let's see. Just open it. I think I have a later one, but well, yeah, a lot of companies specify 2x3 because that's what they are used to.
Yeah, that's another big problem.
That's a problem. But the problem in the Netherlands will go away because we have, of course, the BIM-based IDS. We also have the IDS design and engineering.
Yes.
And we're working on that on version 2.0, and that's based on IFC 4x3.
That's great. That's great.
So that's really great. And we will get, while opening, not here. Well, this is also nice, the BSSD plugin, but let's go to BSD. And here, dictionaries. Let's go to A. So this is like we will present it the March 20th, the work we're doing. Basically, if you would go to the wall, what we have here. Yeah, so this is something that we are working on. It's only in Dutch, but it's like a list of, well, this is a partitioning wall, and you would call it lichtscheidingswand in the Netherlands, and then you would get all these properties that we want that are needed. So there are possible relations to the classification code. So it can be 21, 11, 13, 14. If there is a link to the IFC, so you know it's an IFC wall partitioning.
No, I don't think. Sorry for interrupting you. I don't mean this is what he means. I think he says that because he wrote another question, another reply, and he said that Revit actually uses a GitHub version, but is not specified as an app, as far as I understand. Latest version go wrong, earlier version still go right. So I think he manages to do these things using a earlier Revit version, but not with the most recent one. So that's why I'm thinking if this is something, this has something to do with the exporter itself from Revit, not that.
I don't know. Let's see.
I could be wrong. I have no clue, but I know that in many cases, like, it's not recommended to use the default exporter from Revit, but to use the GitHub one.
Yeah, and if something used to work and it doesn't work anymore, then of course at the GitHub you can report an issue. And well, unfortunately,
That's not going to get fixed anytime soon, unfortunately.
that's true. But yeah, if you don't mention it, then it will never.
Zero chances. Yeah. I know.
Man.
But I know some guys who have reported some issues since 2018 and they are not fixed yet, and they are not so complex. But yeah, let's not be negative. Let's be positive. I have too high expectations from. I've been spoiled by issues reported about bonsai, and they get fixed the same day or a few days later. So.
Yes, I was thinking, all right, so I don't know. Let's just get a symbolic in there so we can actually see it in the plan. So how should we export the shaft opening? I don't know. Let's just see what happens then.
Oh, you export IFC 4x3 now only for your projects?
Yeah, I do.
For all the new projects, and you deliver this to your clients?
They get the data that they want. Yeah, and sometimes, well, I have to admit, sometimes we use for reference view, and that mainly has to do with some issues with window frames in Solibri. But that's situational, basically. And I will just export to 4x3, and then somebody really complains, then we'll just ask what's the problem and how can we help. But that's let's go here. Well, we have yeah, it's an opening. It's not a shaft by itself, because shafts, of course, are openings, and we have an opening in the floor. So I'm not sure if that's really what you mean, but what I usually do is it there somewhere? Oh. Yeah, what I usually do for people like Engelbertus, because he's a structural engineer, is creating elements like this. I could fix this, of course. And then this one is actually a shaft or an opening. It could be an opening in a structural wall or something, just to communicate openings. And what you'll see, and this is why there's a big difference between what IFC version you use. In 4x3, it's called an IFC virtual element. In IFC 4, it was still a generic model, so basically an IFC building element proxy. But the way this is supposed to export, because if I would go to I'm not sure if this is the answer, but it's still nice to see if there is no virtual element here. But that's on the type level. So if I would go here and I would say, I don't want to export this by type, but I want to export this by find it here, a virtual element, and this is a provision for void. And then X3, let's see if it's the same. it gets exported as a provision for void, just like you want. But if you would look at the 4x, oh no, that's not 4x3. Go to the 4. Oh, this is German.
Can you zoom in a bit, please?
Yeah. So here you see provision for void, provision for space. So this is the provision for void in IFC 4 and in IFC
4x3.
3.
I think
you would see that it's not there anymore.
they are removed, I guess. I think they are removed, yes.
You could see it's used for.
I think you can search, yeah, or you can search. Okay, yeah, use IFC virtual element. That's right.
That's the provision for void. Yeah. So I use this, but unfortunately, it's still. And of course, I asked that to the developers on GitHub as well. It's really great that we can export it now because it. In some versions before, we couldn't even export to provision for void, or we couldn't even export to IFC virtual element, but now we can, but it's still instance only, which is too bad. But we can do that. So that's maybe sometimes a bit of extra challenge, but what I really like is the clearance, because this one is provision for void is really for communication with especially structural engineers, and for me it's with the door openings, window openings, but for MEP people, the installations, the piping that goes through walls. We even have a guideline for provision for voids in the Netherlands, how to communicate with that. So that's really really. But the clearance is for us very important, because that is what you maybe have seen in models like this. It's basically these kind of elements that say, this is where nothing can be. This is how the door swings open. And I think, let's see what we have.
Maybe windows or some windows.
Yeah, and elevator shafts, basically.
Cameras, maybe some cameras could be as well.
Yeah, and well, this is of course outside, but usually on top of every staircase, every stair flight, we have this as well. Because this is really useful, because this is clash prevention instead of clash detection.
Yeah,
that's why we put it in the models, so we can communicate with everybody. This is the height, and it's regulations height. It's not just actual height; it's the height that is required by the regulations.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Do you have anything else for your presentation?
I had quite some things about quantities. But
maybe you can go quicker. Don't go so into detail, because I don't think we are going to have time to cover everything. But just to mention them, and how maybe provide some advice how to undergo these shortcomings.
Yeah, this is also one of the really short. Let's go. This, of course, locating your models, because you're not alone. You're working with other people. This is obvious that they don't fit. So geolocation, but also not just geolocation, also locations to coordinate without the actual coordinates in the real world. Let's see. For example, this is a slide that I did. So this is an older slide on a project that we had to do with 2x3. What you can see is that we have the gross side areas of this little wall, and it exports to the base quantities, because that's 2x3, into the correct gross side area, which can be found here. But sometimes it's missing. So you think, oh, I'm exporting everything correct, but then some of the walls are not exporting correct. And well, of course, you can create some checks So what I did here is create a specification that checks if the base quantities are present, and then you could actually see, okay, there are some walls, brickwork, that do not have the correct quantities, or they don't have quantities at all. And before I made this, I was at the contractor, I was working there on the project, and then somebody who was actually calculating the brickwork was like, I need to talk because I got the model, I got and I also got the quantities from IFC, but also got the quantities from Navisworks. So I'm comparing them, and they don't match up. And so then we found out that there were some things happening with these walls, these specific walls. And then, of course, we could fix it, but that's something that's, quite important as well, Jack. And do we have in here? I think that these are the base quantities, for example. These are a lot of openings. For example, this one, this piece of wall, it's one wall, but there is a gap in between. And basically that is what happens when you see the gross area is 0. So that's something that's obviously not correct. So this one was a short one, a small part. But you could actually, this was a part with just some base quantities. So I exported this to a newer version with length. But if I would open the one where I corrected the mistake, where I just took out that one, you can see that the areas actually got exported. So that one was how I could fix that. And another thing is, let's see, it's here, base quantities. Yeah, what you see is that this one. Yeah, what you see in IFC 4x3, because the exporter in 2024 is still, it's called experimental, and basically that's a bit tricky because you have the quantities are still, you need to export it yourself. But if you go back to 4, the reference view, for example, you would get the right quantities. But also you should.
You mean that you cannot export them to QSet directly, you mean?
You can, but you have to use an export mapping table. But then you can get the areas from Revit and say, I want to map the export, the area to the net area or to the gross area, and then just what you need. But in a previous version, something that at first I was like, oh, that's nice. This one is actually I exported it as a wall, and this little part as a covering. But what you can see here, that it was a fascia. And I never use it because it never used to be able to export correctly to IFC. It always stayed an element proxy. But now apparently it's possible to export fascias to the correct entity, which is great. But still, if you look at this is a covering. Look at the quantities, you can see that the gross net area is 48 square meters, because this side, that's the area of the covering. But this one is a covering as well, and here you can see that the gross area is 0.209 square meters, and that's actually this width times the length. So the quantities are not correct in this one. And here you can see that the same thing with the wall. The length is 11 meters, net volume. So here in the wall there is no area. So still you can export some more things, but yeah, always take care that if you're exporting quantities, something that's quite important because people who receive your model, and if they need your model to order brickwork or to calculate the totals of ceiling, whatever, then they really need to have the quantities correct. So not just export with your quantities on and think, oh, this is correct. Always check and double check and see, is everything there? Is it correct? Does it make sense what I exported? And also reference to your Revit schedules, because in Revit you also have the quantities. So you can easily create a schedule that says, okay, this is the square meters of wall that I have. And in my IFC viewer, I can also get a report and just compare them, see are they a match or not. Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I have still a lot of things open, but this one was structural model to demonstrate the uniformat instead of the.
No, but it's okay because I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question, and we can wrap up with that because we are getting close to 6. I don't know if you have any workaround for this thing. It just drives me crazy to see duplicate types in my models or in any models. When I see models from Revit, I get duplicate types. Do you have any workaround for that, or it is not possible to do anything about it?
I'm not sure what you mean with duplicate types.
So when you export a model from IFC, like if you know what is a type, IFC wall type, for example, what is happening, Revit exports each type like for each occurrence. But in IFC, you can have just a type and then like that occurrence instantiated in all the places where you have the wall, right? In Bonsai, you can see you can see many types which are actually about the same wall. Let's say you have a wall, concrete wall, 15 centimeters thick, and you should have only one of that. Like in this case, you have the green wall, right? So that should be only one, or that thing right here, that platform, or that column, exactly. That's a type, right? So when you export this, we should get only one IFC type of this column. We should not get, or maybe we have more of them, but we should not get one type for each column, which is what's happening right now. Sorry if I caught you off guard and if you did not spot this problem before.
This is all the same type.
Yeah, but when you export this to IFC, this comes correctly, or you get multiple types? Because that's why we have an IFC patch in Bonsai, which is called remove duplicate types from Revit.
That's cool. We could see what happens.
Can you export this model, but only the columns?
No, because just the IFT that I got from the structural engineer, so that's not.
Okay.
Model, but it's.
You can open then any model that you have, and you can easily look at the types, but one that you exported yourself. You can take even the one if you define types, because I don't know if you for the two walls model you defined any types.
Let's get, I don't know, this one.
We can try with the one that you worked with today. The two walls, because you have two walls, but I don't know if you used any types.
Yeah. Now it's opening a big one.
No, it's okay. It might take a while though. If it's a big one, then it might take a while. But for that, can you check in Revit then? Okay, there we go.
So
You have to scroll down straight, like to the bottom. No, on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, if you collapse those things or scroll a lot down, you see that scroll bar? Yeah, you have to collapse not everything, but the floors, the stories, or spaces also. Can you scroll? You see a bar, a scroll bar on the right-hand side. You can drag that one to go much quicker. Drag it straight to the bottom. Here, you see? You see these things? It's impossible that you have this as this is duplicate types, right? So this means that like you have, it's so much more effective to have just only one type, right? And then the occurrences. And there is a patch to fix this with Bonsai, but this could be cool to see if there is a solution to avoid this when you do from Revit. But I'm not sure this, if I remember correctly, Dion said that it might be a bug or something like that, but I'm not sure. I don't remember correctly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I see here the only 2 or 3 IFC wall types.
Yeah, but look at the other things. What are those?
These are windows. Basically, this is correct because these are different types.
But look at toilets, or what are those? Rooms, you see?
Those are rooms. So rooms are always instance, right?
Yeah.
Maybe this one is. No, I don't really see any duplicates.
Structural framing. Can you select? Yeah. Yeah, there is a chance that there might be more of them, but I also look at the naming, you see, and the naming, that usual naming comes from Revit.
Yeah, and this is also interesting because this is actually the host where the family. It's basically a window family where all the family parts are in. But that's the family, and it's not exported, or actually it is exported apparently. But basically the door host doesn't have any geometry. So this is just an empty container that contains the window frame, the glass panel, and all the other accessories around it.
Okay, I see.
So this is well,
it's something to look into.
Quite interesting, yeah.
Maybe we can find a solution. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's good. Thank you so much, Meno. We don't have any other questions. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, for hanging in there. If you have any other questions, you know where to find us in BIMvoice Friends on the school. Ask on YouTube comments, whatever. But yeah, you would get much better answers on the school community. So I hope to see you there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to my LinkedIn profile. You will see a website under my name. Just click on there. You are going to get there. Thank you very much, Meno. I really appreciate you. And let's look into that thing and the other stuff that we talked before. Those are 2 things that could be interesting to discuss sometimes in the future, maybe in 1 month times or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do something else in Revit.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Meno. Have a nice afternoon, everyone. Have a good one.